Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Freddy Fazbear Box just dropped at Popeyes for $7.99, and it's scary good. Garlic palm tenders and cheesy bites with marinara sauce. Upgrade to the deluxe box with $12.99 and get a 20-ounce drink in a cupcake cup. Dig in before it's too late. Try the Freddy Fazbear Crunch menu, now at Popeyes. See Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters. Love that chicken from Popeyes. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Prices may vary.
The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group.
Hello, Dick Morris.
Hi. Oh, it's a horrible day. We have conflicting stories, all mass murders. It's the only time a politician shuts up, when the shooters begin. In Australia, you have this massacre.
11, I think.
At Hanukkah. And have you seen the TV footage of the guy tackling the shooter?
Yeah.
And saving
dude.
God knows how many lives by doing that.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Brave dude, man. That's what you got to be. That's what we all need to be these days, you know?
Yeah.
People that can do that should.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
And in the meantime, Mayor Mamdani in New York is celebrating this by appointing a criminal.
A criminal? Listen to this.
To head on his transitions committee.
Oh, my God. Mayor-elect. I'm calling him now. I always change the name. Zohran Mamdani. Handpicked Mason Lennon, a felon and violent criminal justice activist, who did several hard years for multiple armed robbery, including pistol whipping and bottling, or whatever that means, a New York City taxi driver. Hit him with a bottle, maybe? I'm not really sure what that means. In 97-98. He will serve as Mamdani's Criminal Legal System Committee, one of 17 committees that Mamdani created to help the transition into his communist defund police administration. The commie said the appointees will be tasked with not only making personal recommendations, but policy recommendations. What could possibly go wrong at that point, right? Lennon boasts ties to Lennon boasts ties to the anti-Semite America hater Louis Farrakhan and co-founder group boycotting companies over Trump's America First policy. Lennon met with Farrakhan after Trump's election in 2016, writing afterwards that the honorable, Mr. Louis Farrakhan, yeah, he's honorable, has inspired and motivated me. Good for you. His unapologetic leadership is what is needed in this time. Lennon is the same violent bigot who once declared, the white man has killed, raped, destroyed my culture, calling for warriors to prepare for work. Hey, we're ready. Don't worry about it. I'm ready for you. New York City, Zohran for the commie said Tuesday he appointed a convicted armed robber to advise him on the, this is unbelievable, a convicted armed robber to advise him on the criminal justice system because he wants to take experience and analysis from all New Yorkers.
And this is a woman
Are you kidding?
This is a woman who did 7 years of hard time for armed robbery.
A woman or a guy?
I thought it was a woman.
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't tell by the name. I don't know. We put together a team of more than 400 New Yorkers who are 17 different committees, and these are New Yorkers who bring with them both a fluency of policies and politics of the city, the places that they're succeeded, the places that they've failed. The places that they succeeded and the places that they failed. And we'll take all of their experiences and their analysis into account as we build it.
How do you get away with it?
How could this even
Incredible.
be? We're proud. and I got one more point. We are, this is what he said. We are proud that until freedom, that's some, whatever they are, until freedom leaders have been chosen to serve on Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's transition team on committees for public safety and criminal justice, respectively. Really? This is unbelievable.
I mean, literally, this is switch sides. This is literally Mamdani being pro-crime.
It really is. I mean,
and appointing criminals.
And it's blatant. It's not even like, remember how I always say that Bernie Sanders was into this whole socialism thing, but never mentioned it. And then what's her name? AOC came and she mentioned it. This is this guy. But
it's more than that. It really is being pro-crime and appointing a criminal to advise him on how to be pro-crime. It's unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
Well, enjoy it, those folks that voted for this guy.
And he also was telling immigrants it's okay to refuse talking to ICE agencies. Again, he posted a video to social media on Sunday explaining to immigrants the right to refuse to speak and comply with ICE agents from the U.S. enforcement guys, right? In the video, Mamdani vowed to protect the city's 3 million immigrants, don't worry about the people, saying we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. That's really nice. He explained that people in the U.S. can choose not to speak to federal immigrant agents, film them without interfering, and refuse their request to enter private spaces. ICE agents cannot enter spaces like a home, school, or private area of a workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you. Listen, he's just telling these people, don't get involved, and they're going to get arrested, and good for him. His comments came a week after demonstrators gathered as ICE attempted to detain people on Canal Street near Chinatown. A similar immigration sweep in the same neighborhood last October was also...
This process is ongoing in the country. The ICE agents have become the criminals, and the criminals have become the victims in a sense. And it's incredible what's going on.
It's hard to believe.
Whatever Trump does, they manage to get to the left of him, and they manage to stimulate the feeling of outrage that kindled Trump's candidacy and Trump's success. It's unbelievable what the Democrats are doing. They literally have turned ICE agents, government agents, into the villains.
Roxana on the Rocks talked about this before he was elected, and it was a great monologue she did. And last night we went over it again. I said, let's do the same thing, but in the present tense. This was in the other one, right? So we got Roxana, and we have On the Rocks happening right now. Hello, Roxana. How are you?
Hi, Doug. Hi, Dick.
Hi, Rock.
She said my name first this time, didn't you?
Yeah, right.
Well, first of all, of course, I'd like to put out my prayers to the 2 that were killed and 9 injured at Brown University yesterday.
Oh, God. And then you have Australia.
But
Did you hear about
behind
that?
the times. There's also this mass shooting at Hanukkah.
Yes.
11 dead in Australia.
Did you see that, Rox? It just happened like an hour ago. We saw it. Wow. So what do you got for us?
Yeah. I'd like to begin with Proverbs 14:8. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, ensuring your actions are based on sound reasoning and the consideration of potential consequences. And as Doug mentioned, this was a review of now the aftermath of Mamdani being mayor-elect. And so here we are. Now that Mamdani has become mayor-elect, New Yorkers are already witnessing broken campaign promises. From the onset, he's already asking for money, and not just through the wealthy being taxed, but from all, for the well is dry. Mamdani's solicitation of the word free to get elected now seems omitted. A charlatan, Mamdani promoted a valueless cure, targeting those desperate vulnerabilities clouding their judgment. The others were, as Dick had mentioned, uninformed, following anything anti-Trump or anti-establishment. This election outcome creates many variables to consider. Those who can afford to leave have or will. Those who can't are trying to find reason in such retractions. We could make light of this outcome if it didn't carry such weight. We were asked the most important of questions. What are your core values? Has nihilism become the belief of no hope? I don't believe that. I believe it's all the left strategy, being served on a silver platter, shiny, blinding all senses to the lure of Mamdani's feast of fear. Haven't we already seen where new ideas get blocked and wealth creation gets demonized? Who could have imagined it could become an issue here in our own country? I hope this doesn't become an overwhelming decline in the quality of our life, hindering public health and economic activity. With social harmony already balancing on the beam, will the system as we know it collapse? You need look no further than history to see all the failures of this ideology. Socialist communism, the list is long, the suffering is certain. So starve the server, eradicating, obliterating this anti-American propaganda that we're being fed. Restore our values to the American way of life. Yes, the streets are all aglitter with the dressings of holiday cheer. But if you look close, the faces of the everyman show a light has dimmed. Mamdani's promises were like gifts, wrapped in big, beautiful bows, but just as children who anticipate unwrapping to find their dreams, New Yorkers are now finding empty boxes. Again, a quote from the innate wisdom of Anne Frank. Our lives are fashioned by our choices. First we make our choices, then our choices make us. Blessings to all. And thank you, Dick and Doug.
Beautiful, Roxana.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
The key point I take from that, Roxana, and from the events today, is that the left has is trying to completely turn this on its head.
Yes.
The victims have become the perpetrators. The perpetrators are becoming the victims. The whole system is not designed to punish criminals or catch them or deter them. It's designed to encourage them and to subsidize them and to help them, not help them get better, but help them commit other crimes.
Well, I just wanted to say, the road has been long since they started to want to defund the police and everything that we saw. It's not what you're seeing, but now they're at a whole other level of putting it in your face, and all these crimes and these shootings, it's just unbelievable.
Every day. That's funny, Rock, that you just said the road has been long. I was just about to say the Long March. Yeah. This has been long for 50 years, and now they can do this, and Mamdani could do this because he's got people, the young people and stupid people and uninformed people, to pull it in and say, wow, this is real. I can't believe it. And nihilism also. This all ties together. I mean, it's been this long march.
The whole idea of values going away or being turned on their head. I always thought defunding the police was about decreasing the number of people who were engaged in law enforcement. What it really is unilateral disarmament of the forces of law and order, and in order to subsidize and enable the forces of chaos and death.
I think that goes hand in hand with disarming people, gun control. Same thing for citizens. They want to do it to the police now. First it was us. They tried to disarm all of us, and now they want to disarm the police. So divide and conquer, this whole, what's his name?
The stats, which I've looked at, a guy named John Lott has written some books about this, and the book that I love is entitled More Guns, Less Crime. And he completely correlates the crime rate, the murder rate, and everything else with gun control laws. And makes clear that when we disarm the population, we don't disarm the criminals, we enable them.
Yeah, sure.
That's right.
Absolutely. When you see that sign that says gun-free zone, that's where they go in to shoot people.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much, Rock. That was fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, hon. See you. All right. Do we have time? Yeah.
Okay.
We have 2 minutes.
Now, there's a discussion going on in the Trump campaign about affordability. Trump has latched on to the idea of affordability and calls it a hoax. He said the idea is, how can you say affordability? Incomes are up, real incomes are up. He points out that real incomes, that is the income wages minus inflation, is higher now than it's ever been. And that the idea that you can't afford stuff, he says, is basically just the left trying to distract people.
Well, Dick, this is all about messaging, the news.
Everybody's talking about the A word these days, affordability. It's a huge issue for the White House. But the numbers on the economy aren't where they should be, and I believe that that's a messaging problem. White House aides say reorienting some of Trump's public events to focus on costs, the cost of living. They're planning economy-focused speeches around the country in 2026 and are making plans to shift to domestic matters after Trump spent much of his first 10 months in office on foreign policy. The initiatives on that Trump has taken on costs of living are enormous. His opposition to tax increases, his tax cuts.
He pointed out to investment by private companies in the U.S. tax cuts in his signature tax spending package, and his administration worked to lower drug prices. He also discussed a $2,000 stimulus check for many, and he needed to put that out there, so people could start to understand why this is working. Yeah. But this is the media. The more they say, we're dying, global warming, all the crap they put out there, the morons just listen to it. They sit back and they have their little Jameson drink and they sit back and, he's horrible. That's what this is all about. I think we have to take a break.
Okay.
And, when we get back, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll talk about something political.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Trump is moving the offensive about higher prices, not just by addressing inflation in each individual sector, but by going after the media merger structure. There's a proposed merger going on between Nexstar Media and Tenga, T-N-G-A.
I think it's Tanya. Don't say the G. I don't think so. Tanya.
Which would put 80% of U.S. households under one broadcaster's reach, giving the combined company major influence over retransmission fees that drive cable and live TV bills. Critics warn the merger, which depends on the FCC loosening long-standing media ownerships, would do the opposite by driving up monthly TV bills for millions of Americans ahead of the midterm elections. One industry insider called the move for the timing politically baffling. It seems like a bad idea to me. There's a lot of concern about affordability, and you're going to hear more of it between now and the election. Moving forward with something that raises costs isn't a wise political move. Under current rules, no broadcaster is allowed to own enough TV stations to reach more than 39% of the households. But since June, the FTC has been reviewing whether to keep, raise, or eliminate the ownership cap. The Nexstar Tanya merger can't move ahead unless the agency changes that limit, making the ownership cap review one of the most consequential and least understood regulatory decisions underway in Washington. In September, the FCC began its required 4-year review of ownership rules and is now seeking public comments on whether to further limit mutual ownership caps or should they stay in place.
So now tell me exactly what you just read, because I have no clue what you just said.
The whole idea was that the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, would limit the number of stations one person could own or one company.
You can't have more than 40%, 30-something, 39%. I get that. That's a monopoly.
And now there's an effort by the companies to eliminate the cap entirely.
They want to have whatever
so
they want.
Everybody can own as many as they want.
Not good.
And what that really means is there'll be a tremendous concentration of power in basically the foreign networks. And
where do you think it's going to go?
Well, I think Trump is going to stop this.
Right, can't happen.
But he hasn't stopped it yet. And there's a real concern that if he approves it, they could use the opposition, the left could use this to basically control all media.
Yeah, sure, spend their money.
But the particular focus is on local news coverage, on what you do on the local news. You know, things like crime and assassinations and Jews being killed in Hanukkah and all the stuff that is so rare now that we see every instant, every minute.
Oh, can't take it.
And the problem is that if the ownership caps are lifted, one or two people will decide what we see on local news.
Right.
And local news is really the only place that we're getting the true story about crime.
Well, it was kind of like the social media was all the left, and they were capping everything. They were stopping me and people like me from, posting conservative stuff. You would just get popped off the site all the time. So
there is some good news around here.
Really?
Michael and
I think Susan
Dell.
Susan? I think so.
Dell from Dell Computers.
Yeah.
Have come out with $6.2 billion that they're giving to people who are under 10 years of age. And he's going to give them all $250. And he's doing that to 25 million people.
Yeah, but
the money will go into a savings account for them, which the kids could access when they're 18 and use it for any one of a number of key purposes. Their education, buying a new house, starting a new job.
But now, hold on. That's $250 for kids right now under 10, but $1,000 for children that are born after January 1st of this year coming. $1,000, and then you could put $5,000 in that account a year, and then a employer or somebody else, I think it's an employer, can put another $2,500. So you could do $7,500 a year. That is not taxable. Did we figure this out?
Yes, and the $1,000 that every kid is going to get in his $250 every kid will get.
That's 10 years old now.
That's right. Will grow to $5,900 by the time they're 10 years old.
That's only the $1,000 and the $250. But if they put $7,500, number one, this makes a kid when he's age, I don't know, 10 years old, 12 years old. And his parents say, you have $1,000 in the account, hopefully more. That Uncle Joe gave you another $500 and Aunt Millie gave you $200. Hopefully more. He's going to feel worth something. He's going to have something to look forward to. Let me put in, he gets a paper route. Yeah, who does paper routes anymore? He gets a paper route and he puts in $5 a week or $10 a week. You make him feel like he's got something. And this is really important.
He does have something.
Right.
So Michael Dell came out with $6.2 billion and said, you know what? For everyone 10 and under, I'm going to give them all $250.
It's amazing.
And he's doing that to 25 million people.
I love this guy.
And since Michael Dell did that, we've got people, wealthy people from all over the country, ringing our phones off the hook saying, hey, we want to do that too.
I love this. And we got to have him on the show next week.
It's a new model. It's a new platform for making society more just, but doing so voluntarily with the well-earned profits of American philanthropists. And this is terrific. It's a whole new genre, really, in aid and in philanthropy.
And completely different from the left that, they want to tax Jews so they can give money to this guy and this. Look what's happening. People are volunteering. Dell started it. Now you're going to get all these other people, philanthropists, that are going to say, I want to do this too. I want to give them another $1,000 or whatever, right? This is unbelievable. Yeah. The left would have to tax you and take your money and, regulation on everything. This is beautiful. This is the way we're supposed to be.
It really represents a total change in the way the government deals with wealth. Instead of just taxing it or regulating it, they're encouraging it, and they're encouraging it to be given to children.
I think we should ask our boss, who started this? Did you talk to Dell about this, or did he come to you? Yeah. I want to know where this started, and he'll tell us. He'll be totally proud of it.
Well, it started really, I think, with private sector doing it on their own. when I was born.
You were
my
born
parents,
or hatched?
Born. I wasn't hatched till I had a federal job. Then you get hatched.
Yeah, right.
My relatives and family gave me all kinds of $25 and $50 and $100 gift certificates.
Yeah, that's us too, sure.
And that's savings bonds.
Yeah.
And by the time I was 13, I had a couple $1,000. Right,
yeah, but me too.
I used it to buy my first house in my first marriage.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And, but having that is so important, and having people have access to it is so important. I
think our age, you're a little bit older than me. I got that too. I don't know how much we ended up with each one of us, but 1,000 or 1,500. Yeah. That might come from World War II and the bonds and this type of thing where people had that kind of mentality. I don't know, but people will buy a bond for when you're born, a neighbor or an uncle. But this is really great. I got to tell you, and I want to know. Because, whether Dell came to Trump and said, listen, I'm going to do this, or Trump asked him, hey, what do you think? You thinking about this? I'm just curious. Yeah, I need to know. I need to know.
It is incredible, and it's such a total change from government-based taxation and regulation.
Oh, so great.
Now,
is FDA too slow to? I don't like this story, but I'm gonna go.
But this is one of the few instances where Trump is not moving fast enough.
I don't think he's talking about it yet. Now he's going to hear us, or you're going to tell him about it this week. He's going to think about it, and he's going to stop this. Okay, let's talk about it. Trump's FDA too slow to okay new drugs. They are worse so far than the Biden FDA in their pace of approving new drugs. This is unnecessarily keeping potentially life-saving drugs off the market. Here's a disturbing chart showing that the FDA has approved only 39 new drugs so far this year through yesterday, on pace to be lower total than any year of Trump's first term and 3 of Biden's 4 years. In other words, it's slower than how the drugs are being approved. We are reminded of the words of our hero, Milton Friedman. I love this guy. The FDA has already done enormous harm to health of the American public by greatly increasing the cost of pharmaceutical research, thereby reducing the supply of new and effective drugs, and by delaying the approval of such drugs as survive the torturous FDA process. Most other Trump's regulatory agencies are dialing back regulatory overkill, but the FDA gears are grinding more slowly than ever. I don't really like this at all. Yeah. Someone please tell President Trump, that would be you, Dick Morris, who a little over 6 years ago signed the right to try. That was great. Order for drugs deemed safe. Now he has the FDA, which has ordered no right to try. Right to try was if someone's dying and really not doing well with their cancer, whatnot, and a drug isn't approved yet, but it's getting close, and they find it
approved for other uses.
You can go to the manufacturer or the FDA. I don't know who you go to, and get that drug and use it. That was very important. I thought that was pretty good.
It was.
You're going to die anyway. Like if you feel like you're going to die anyway,
I'll bet that
give it
in
a
the
shot.
Next week or two, this story becomes obsolete because Trump will hear about it and will act on it.
He's going to hear about it in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that this highlights, though, the incredible progress of this administration.
I was just going to say,
it's deregulation.
This shows how mindful this guy is. He's going to look at this, and you're going to call him later and say what we just did on the show, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to go, oh, really? I didn't realize this. And he's going to do something about it. And he will do something about it. He's not going to go, oh, let me give it to this guy.
We'll keep you posted on this, but I think we'll see a footprint from this segment.
Tomorrow,
the next day.
Yeah, no,
he doesn't
tomorrow.
wait long.
No, he's not going to let this hang. No way. No way. He will not.
Now, while this is going on, Russia and China are making advances in weaponizing weather.
Russia and China are at the forefront of a group of nations investing in geoengineering capabilities, according to the Royal United Services Institute, a British think tank. Research into the technologies and systems needed to manipulate weather patterns for strategic or military purposes have been conducted in recent years under the guise of climate study. The Institute, Britain's oldest defense think tank, issues a sobering alert on weather weaponizing this year. It warned that Moscow could seek to induce climate extremes such as drought or flooding by deploying solar geoengineering technology against adversary and disrupting agricultural production and operations. I can't see how they're going to do this. I really can't see how they can get away with this. The problem is by the
time you see it,
it might be too late.
Interesting,
Dick Morris.
It's interesting. I mean, put this
you could talk into your mic, maybe. It might be a little helpful.
Put this under the heading of how Trump's military rebuilding in the United States has taken away so many of the tactical and strategic options that our adversaries have. And now they're looking
for drones to laser, shoot down stuff like
the
Iron Dome
and that stuff.
Sure.
And what they're really trying to do now is grope around in the dark.
Sure.
To try to find new technologies that they can deploy against us.
It was also like the EMT, what was it called? The electromagnetic
pulse, EMP. Most electromagnetic pulse.
Right. That was a long time ago.
Well, but now the Golden Dome that Trump is talking about will be able to block that.
Right.
But it'll take several years to deploy.
Anything that comes along, somebody really smart figures out how to, protect themselves from this thing that comes along, whatever it may be.
Now, Trump also is calling for one rule globally on AI, or artificial intelligence. And there's a real push-pull going on between the left and the right over what we should be doing to regulate AI. And everybody agrees that certain regulations are necessary.
Sure.
And we can even see it in our daily lives when videos that we thought were just were real turn out not to be.
Right. Oh, look what Trump said, and then all of a sudden it's AI, it's or right. You. I could say that you said something. Sure, right. And I got to tell you, I was an illustrator all my life in advertising and animation, and I've special effects all my life. I can't tell. I always could tell. All my life I could tell all the movies, that special effect, it's a glitch over there, it's not seamless. You can't tell some of these people talking, and they're walking through a thing, and they say hello.
And particularly when it's a candidate himself.
Right.
So Trump is striking back after what he calls overzealous bad actor states that have been crippling the artificial intelligence boom in the U.S. with restrictions, obstruction, and oppressive regulations. Trump is vowing to impose a federal order of one rule on AI. There must be only one rule book if we're going to continue to lead in AI, Trump wrote. We're beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long if we're going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors, meaning liberals, involved in rules and the approval process.
Right.
There can be no doubt about this. AI will be destroyed in its infancy. Trump says, will be doing one rule executive order this week. You can't expect a company to get 50 approvals every time they want to do something.
They'll never do it.
That'll never work.
Right.
Trump campaigned on a platform to make the U.S. the Bitcom and AI capital of the world, focusing on deregulating the restrictive policies put in place by the Biden administration. The early returns in year one under Trump had been promising for markets with companies tied to Bitcom and AI until recent declines and talk of an AI bubble. The United States, the problem that Trump has in the economy is that he's reducing the pool of available workers by throwing illegals out of the country. And he's creating an artificial labor shortage, which is impairing production and creativity.
I don't know, but do you feel that?
No, because
I don't believe that.
I don't, because what Trump is doing is at the same time he's funding AI and promoting AI so that it is taking the play. We always talk about artificial intelligence replacing workers.
Right.
In this case, they're replacing illegal immigrants who've been thrown out of the country.
And let me tell you,
the inflation consequences that people had warned about decreasing the labor force by throwing illegals out of the country is not happening now. It's the opposite.
And let me tell you real fast, and then we got to take a break. I said this years ago on the train platform a long time ago in like Bronxville or something. And the guy goes, I can't believe they're going to have the machines to get the tickets and you're going to lose a lot of jobs. I said, no, you're not. You're going to gain jobs, people building the machines, maintaining machines. You know
and taking the train.
And it's the same thing, right. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? You think people are leaving a job, but you're going to have people building AI and so.
One of the amazing stories here is how well the U.S. has responded to the loss of illegal immigrants in the workforce.
We're not going to have a problem with anything. Yeah. Anyway, when we come back, we'll talk more about this. Thank you.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. You know, during the election of 24, Doug made a personal crusade to try to stop non-citizens from voting. And Trump has picked that up and pushed it very hard.
It was the motor voter getting...
But it now appears that a lot of the people who, in fact, voted illegally thought they were legal voters.
Right.
Because of the confusion, I think, deliberately created by motor voter.
You know, the aliens who have been federally prosecuted for illegal voting were lawful permanent residents who believed or claimed to believe that they were eligible to vote. Federal appeals court are in agreement that aliens can be convicted for illegal voting even if they falsely believe, is that right? Falsely believe themselves to be eligible to vote. Conviction requires knowledge that one is voting and knowledge that one is not a U.S. citizen, and they are. The motor voter law, and this is important, they gave out, before I go through this, they gave out licenses at first in California. I think they started it for illegals. They said, well, they got to drive. They got to get back and forth to work. But when you get a license, you could check on the back that you're a conservative or whatever you are, and you can vote, or you think you can vote. But it's not legal when you go to the voting place. They're supposed to look at it and say you're not legal to vote. But the guy with the license thinks he's legal to vote. So that was the problem. And we had one of Trump's lawyers, a woman, that said, I'm worried about this. It was 21 million people had that license. Am I right about that? I think it was 21 million. I think we might have stopped at least half of them, the half that were going to come out.
Some of them.
Right? So anyway, the motor voter law are largely to blame for both non-citizen voting, affront to American democracy, and for the lives upended when non-citizens believing themselves eligible to vote have been caught voting illegally. They voted for fatally flawed NVRA, non-voter registration something. Act. That's not only facilitates vote fraud, but also results in legal aliens mistakenly voting and putting themselves at risk of jail or deportation. Those most culpable are the congressional advocates of the NVRA who insisted, whether sincerely or not, that it would not lead to voting by non-citizens. Until they were looking to get their votes. The new report finds that the NVRA's requirements, particularly is prohibition on state officials giving any guidance that might discourage anyone, even non-citizens, from registering, combined with the absence of any citizenship verification mechanism, has created confusion for immigrants legally present in the United States. Numerous federal prosecutions in recent years involved permanent residents who mistakenly believed they were eligible to vote being offered registration at DMV. There you go. George Fishman, a senior legal fellow at the center and author of the report, stated that the motor voter law was sold to Congress as risk-free. Its supporters insist it would not cause non-citizen registration, yet the evidence includes the Kansas case shows otherwise. The report calls on Congress to amend the MVRA to allow states to verify citizenships, permits officials to clearly warn non-citizens they are ineligible to vote before inadvertently breaking the law.
Yeah, well, this is, again, part of the left's attempt to turn everything on its head.
Yeah.
The state officials were subject to prosecution, criminal prosecution, for telling somebody when they got a driver's license that this did not constitute the legal authority to vote. And they could be prosecuted for that, and they are being prosecuted.
The illegal aliens we're talking about.
No, we're talking about the state officials.
State officials.
Who say, here's your driver's license.
Good for them.
And by the way, and they would then say, so can I vote now? And they were prohibited from saying no. And the result was that people would vote thinking that they were legal because they had a driver's license. And this carried through to the election officials who looked at the driver's license and said, yeah, this is your name. This is your photo. This is you. So I guess this means you can vote. And that's turned out to be a big, big loophole in allowing non-citizens to vote.
And quickly, once again, what we did was we had signs in all the swing states and the areas where we thought, and, from our polls, where illegals probably are going to vote. And we had signs in trucks with signs on them, those digital signs that said, if you're illegal and you vote, you're going to get caught. You're going to get deported. You're going to get tracked. We had a whole bunch of signs, different things. And, somebody sees that. A couple of illegal guys see that are going, the Democrats send them with a lunch and a beer and $50. You see that, you're going to say, I'm not going in. And then you tell your friend, and your friend tells a friend. I think we cut down a lot of things, but
we may well have.
Yeah, I'd be scared to vote if I was going to get arrested.
We may well have.
Yeah.
But, there's a huge Supreme Court case coming up that may be one of the most significant cases, not only of the Trump administration, but in the history of the federal judiciary. When Franklin Roosevelt set up these independent agencies during the New Deal, all the officials were appointed for terms. And they were saying this is either a 10-year term or a 6-year term. And in the interim, you can't be fired by the administration. And this was really a protection against the idea that Republicans might come in during the New Deal and invalidate a lot of these New Deal measures. And so the court...
Understandable.
So the court ruled in what was called the Humphreys decision that said that you have to wait until the end of the term, and to fire someone in the middle of the term has to be for cause. They have to be found taking bribes or moral problems or something like that. Now, Trump is suing because he wants to fire a Federal Trade Commission member without cause, significantly limiting the independence of independent agencies. The court's conservative majority seems skeptical that Rebecca Slaughter, the name of the woman, the Democratic commissioner who was dismissed, should not be allowed to be removed at Trump's behest. A win for Trump, which is seeming increasingly likely, could eviscerate 90 years of Supreme Court precedent under Humphrey's executive versus the United States that enabled Congress to protect FTC commissioners and a handful of other federal agencies from firings at the White House whim. And Humphrey's executive just a dried husk of what other people used to think it was, Chief Justice Roberts said. But the question of whether Trump can remove Slaughter or not was appointed in 2018 by Trump, but her service was inconsistent with administration policies, meaning that she was
if he appointed her, he should be able to fire her.
That's right.
It's not like she was appointed by left side or whatever. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
And the left is saying the president's constitutional ability to execute the law does not give him the power to violate that law with impunity. Lower courts have largely ruled against Trump, finding they're still bound by that 90-year-old Humphrey decision. But now the fight has reached the Supreme Court, the only bench with authority to overturn its own precedents. Trump administration lawyers have held out the hope that the conservative majority will do so. Trump says the removal protections infringe on the separation of power by preventing him from exercising his constitutional authority to dominate and to control the executive branch.
That seems likely. That seems like it's
real.
real.
It would be a gigantic change. Now, one of the big issues that people are not really knowing about is how will this affect the Federal Reserve Board? The Federal Reserve Board is appointed for term, each member by the president. separately confirmed by the Senate. Now, if this decision goes so far as to say that the Federal Reserve members cannot be fired without cause in the middle of the term, that's going to fundamentally change the whole country.
Can the Supreme Court rule on that now?
Yes.
Like when they rule on this and say, but you can't do that to the Fed.
They can.
Whatever, yeah.
And there's a real chance that they will.
Right. For that reason right there.
Yeah. And Trump cares about the Federal Trade Commission and the other agencies, but the big thing is the Federal Reserve Board. And this could transform the Federal Reserve Board from an independent agency into an arm of the president. And it's a good idea.
We're going to go. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Jasmine Crockett to run for Senate.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. We have a story about Jasmine Crockett, whose name has been altered by Doug DiPirro.
Crockett. Trump must love me when he hears all this stuff, because he hasn't used, what's his name? What's the one I like? Letitia.
Yeah.
LaShyster.
Right.
LaShyster James. I haven't heard him say that. Anyway, she's launched a campaign Monday for the U.S. Senate in Texas, bringing a national profile to a race that may be critical to Democrats' long-shot hopes of reclaiming a Senate majority in the next year's midterm. Crockett, one of Congress's most outspoken Democrats, jumped into the race on the final day of qualifying in Texas. She is seeking the Senate seat held by John Cornyn, who is running for re-election in a GOP-dominated state. Democrats need to gain 4 Senate seats to wrest control. Just real quick before you get into anything, I loved our friend Brandon Gill.
Yeah.
He went at her, right? He was brand new. He was on his seat he was on the seat for 6 months, and he went at her with such class. I mean, if you're hearing this, Brandon, thank you. You were fantastic.
So what's happening here is that in all of these states that the Republicans control the legislature, like Texas, they are redistricting so that the lefties who currently represent the state in Congress can't continue.
Is this what they're trying to circumvent?
And what Crockett is doing is that she's said, okay, you're not going to let me run for Congress. I'll run for the Senate.
Crockett. And
she jumped into the Senate primary.
Right.
And it's really screwing up the Democrats. Democrats have this fantasy.
Well, hold on 1 second. So if she's walking away from the Congress seat, so what happens with that?
That goes Democrat. That goes Republican, probably.
Or does it goes to the vote. It goes to the midterm.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, go on.
But the Democrats have this fantasy that they can flip Texas. And they have invested vast amounts of money in doing that. I know because I worked in the Ted Cruz campaign.
Love him.
Of 100 years ago.
Nice guy.
And we stopped an effort to oust him or to take the seat away.
Right.
And then they tried 4 years later, and now they're trying now. And they're always hoping that they can flip Texas, and they never can. And this is another effort, but thank goodness this will hurt them, because there'll be a Democratic primary, which will really sap their ability to win.
Let's go to Sandra. She's talking about the GOP needs to get to know these singers. What singers, Sandra?
Okay, here's what happened. Last night, my daughter took me to see a singer called Machine Man Kelly. Now, that's not my type of music, but that's okay. I wanted to bond with my daughter.
That was a movie.
No, it was an artist, a singer at Barclays in Brooklyn.
Right.
Now, let me tell
Named
you,
after Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah, in the movie.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so
no, there was a Machine Gun Kelly.
The first observation I made was there was excellent security there, and they were all young kids checking your bags to make sure everything is good. So that was nice. So I get to my seat, and I'm looking at the amount of people there. This is the first time since Donald Trump that I've gone to something big like this. I would say it was filled to capacity, 19,000 people. So, Dick Morris, I want you to know I'm writing notes on my phone that I want to share with you because I know you are brilliant and you can make something happen. And here's my idea. I'm looking at all these kids, young kids. They have to be tapped. What's to stop some ambitious Republican person to charm the snake, for instance, the singer, and find out something he says in his songs that we love? Like he wants to connect to the broken people. He wants to reach the people that aren't loved. So you find something that he says, and you go up at the end of the show and you say, by the way, my name is, let's say, J.D. Vance. I love this artist. I love what he stands for. And you start to get your name out there with all these kids, you know, that Republicans are good people. We like, do you hear what I'm saying, Dick Morris?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Use the audience of younger people or a different demographic and different
You sound
people.
like Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. That's exactly correct. So this is another way. And Dick Morris, if you could think about a way now, look, I remember two things. One, charm the snake. Two, I read a book once, The Ladder to Success. You skip all those steps and you go straight to the top. So someone has to go straight to the top.
So how was the music, Sandra?
Yeah, how was the show, Sandra?
I'll tell you the truth. It wasn't my type of music. I make lemonade out of lemons. I love her. And I was doing my exercises. I couldn't care less, and I was having a great time.
You know, we went to see. What was the play we went to see? It was horrible. Hamilton.
Which one?
It was.
I saw it too.
Oh, you liked it or you didn't?
No, it was terrible.
It was horrible.
They had George Washington's fat.
Flat, black, short guy.
They had Alexander.
I didn't mind the black part, but he should have been a tall, good-looking, big, muscular guy.
George Washington was very strong, very good-looking.
Tall, muscular, and they made him a short, fat guy.
And they made him a short, fat guy.
That was horrible. Yeah. And the music was like house music. We got to go. Hard break. Sorry. Bye-bye.
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 The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You're on, Dick.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. One of the big inflationary things is meat. And we're up against that when people go into stores and buy hamburger meat or steaks if they can afford it. And notice the big inflation. Well, Peter Navarro has issued a report that explains how Biden's Green New Deal drove up the cost of fuel, feed, and fertilizer, and his Eat Soy rage against ranchers restricted access to grazing lands. His drunken sailor spending fueled historic food price inflation. All of these drivers were amplified and exploited by the extreme market concentration in the beef industry. And this is what people don't understand. The big beef four, Cargill, JBS, which is from Brazil, Tyson Foods, and National Beef, those four companies, control 80 to 85% of U.S. feed cattle slaughtering capacity and boxed beef sales. That's more than twice the level where economists start worrying about monopolistic price gouging. So these four firms, it used to be that most farmers, most ranchers took their cattle to a slaughterhouse to get them killed. And in most cases, the slaughterhouse would feed them for the months while they had them there, and then they would slaughter them. And what's going on now is that because the hundreds and the thousands, really, of slaughter yards have been reduced to really four, every rancher brings their cattle to the same four places, and those places can control the price that's paid to those ranchers, and they can artificially raise it or lower it, usually raise it, to stimulate inflation. How does big beef gouge us? First, because the Big Four own nearly all of America's large slaughter and processing facilities. They can time maintenance, slow production lines, or idle operations to choke supply, even when the cattle numbers are strong. That lets big beef shrink demand for feed cattle, push down rancher prices, and fatten profit margins at both ends. And they use this monopolistic power to control food prices, particularly of beef, also of pork. But the other thing with pork is that of the firms that dominate the pork industry, the big one is Chinese. And literally China controls our hog supply in the U.S.
And Trump put big beef on notice that this is anti-competitive behavior and will no longer be tolerated.
He's directed the Department of Justice to launch a full antitrust investigation into the nation's largest meatpacking companies for illicit collusion, price fixing, and price manipulation. Working with the Department of Agriculture, Justice Department's antitrust division can now subpoena documents, compel testimony, and dig into capacity decisions and data sharing to determine whether the slaughter costs and plant slowdowns cross the line into criminal conspiracy. At the same time, Trump is moving to break big beef's middleman and chokehold by rebuilding competition from the ground up. Through the USDA's Meat and Poultry Processing Expansion Program, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins is helping finance smaller, decentralized processing plants, facilities closer to the ranchers and the local and regional markets they serve.
Capitalism at its best.
It used to be
competitive.
that farmers and ranchers would just bring their cattle to a local
guy,
place, and the local guy would keep them there until they were fat enough to be killed.
And some of these ranchers probably had conversations and said, "Listen, I'm going to bring you 10 things or 100, and I want them put through a certain way." I'm sure they were able to talk to them. Now you can't. Now you're just going to these four guys, Cargill and whatever the others were, right? And you can't have even a conversation.
Right. But the key thing here is that there are only four companies that control the entire process. They're at the spigot. And
Cargill, JBS, Tyson Foods, and National Beef.
Yep. And with pork, that one of the two companies, Smithfield, is controlled by the Chinese.
Great. That's great.
So, and literally half of our pork comes through there. So they can control the price. And the monopolistic structure they have is incredibly powerful. I went to a briefing by some consumer groups about this when Trump was just taking office.
This time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You were there, I think.
Oh, yeah, with Cheryl Gray. That was unbelievable. In Miami, I think.
Yes, and they explained this process to me, and they explained the monopoly of the companies. I then used that to talk to Trump about appointing Kennedy.
And Kennedy, I remember. And we tried to get Cheryl involved with that.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, but we will.
And it didn't happen, and there was no effort on it. But now Trump's gotten it, and here it is. Mm. And I think you can expect real changes as a result of this.
You know, this is the epitome of the art of the deal, the way Trump going to handle this and handles everything.
Well, you were sitting in the meeting when they were briefing me.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to follow, but I did.
No, we did. We got it.
And we got it. But then we were frustrated because we couldn't get Kennedy to act on
Like
this.
They were talking about, instead of pesticides, use certain type of plants at the end of the rows of the thing so that the bugs will die out, and they didn't need as many pesticides. What was the pesticide?
What they call it? Roundup, but
the plants were
I forget
lane or something.
A lane, yeah. What they said was instead of planting all your crops together, plant lanes of crops and seed them with flowers in between.
Right.
That discourage the pests from coming in.
I wish Cheryl would call us and tell us exactly what that was. There was a certain name of that, right?
So now that is really working. and really happening.
Now we're back to Trump's child account.
Yeah.
Could grow to 56 by the age. We kind of talked about this already, but let's go over it one more time. The financial expert note that if the Trump account follows the long-term performance of the S&P 500, which has averaged 10% annual return since 1957, $1,000 deposit can grow to about $5,600 by the age of 18. That's just $1,000. This is not if the people are putting money into it. Also, for many families, this is the first time the federal government has ever offered a program that creates true generational wealth instead of temporary handout. I love this. It gives the children a feeling of worth, as I said before.
Yeah, but this is so important. It's when you look at the stats, the income stats are biased heavily in favor of rich people accumulating income, but they're incredibly biased when you look at wealth, because poor people have no capacity to develop wealth.
And they're not putting money in the bank.
Right.
They're going from dollar to dollar.
Exactly. And the result is that you have very few minority people or poor whites who are able to amass wealth. And this $1,000 per child is really an ability to do that.
And I have to ask again, I know the answer, but I have to mention it so we know. And they cannot touch this $1,000 that goes into this account cannot be touched until 18, right? And if you do touch it, it gets taxed. If you leave it and you put it into a specific,
like buying a new house, buying a car,
then it will not be taxed. Am I right about this?
You are.
I'm close, right?
You are. And by the way, this enters into the Obamacare debate, because what Trump is going to be pushing is using health savings accounts instead of cash subsidies for Obamacare.
People get an account and you can only use it to pay your doctor or pay health care or whatnot. Right. You can't use it for anything else.
That's right.
But it's not their money. It's a government money. It's a government subsidy. What is this?
Yes, the money that would normally be paid to insurance companies.
Right.
To lower the cost, to hold down the cost of premiums.
Got it.
Instead, they would give the money to the insured people.
To an account.
And they could use the money themselves.
As I said last week, it's basically a gift card. You can only use it at the supermarket that you get the gift card or the store that you get the gift card. You can only use it for health care.
Now, this is an incredible story.
I love this.
Donald Trump has rescued 62,000 children.
The White House border czar, Tom Homan, great guy, on December 7th, said more than 60,000 children who were illegally smuggled into the United States have been located by the Trump administration, and that some were rescued from dire situation, including, I can't even say it, sex trafficking and forced labor. But the left is still going to want to not give them credit for it. And I don't really care what they do. I care that Holman caught this. They're finding these kids. This is so
And they're
horrible.
rescuing these kids.
It's beautiful that,
in fact,
this is so important to me. This is so important.
What we found when we investigated this is that the drug cartels in Mexico and other places used to say, I'm going to smuggle drugs in. I'm going to do it by having people swallow the drugs.
Like mules
and then bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
They've cut back on that.
Because of the children?
Now what they do is they say, forget that, just bring the children in.
And where do they get their money from? People that hold on. First people that say, I'll give you $1,000, bring my kid over the border. Yeah. And then people that buy the children for
sex trafficking or for organ transplants or for all kinds of stuff like that.
Men were put on this earth by God to protect women and children. When these people do this to children, this is the worst, most heinous thing I can ever think is evil. To hurt a little kid. What kind of men? They're not men. What kind of people do this?
And just not just hurt kids. This is organ transplant. Take away a kidney, take away a lung, and to make a lot of money from that. So sex trafficking is the least of them. Organ theft is a very important thing. And there's a lot of evidence.
So that's
China,
just killing the kids.
A lot of evidence.
Taking their organs, is that where you go?
No, they don't kill them. They take one kidney. Or they take one lung.
Oh, God.
And the kids will survive, but weakened and die soon. And
was tortured through it,
and China is making money off this. It's become a very big industry.
Who's making the money?
China.
Really? China.
Chinese have made this a very important part of their economy. It's called harvesting organs.
Yeah, right. We talked about this last year.
That's right.
This is so disgusting. I get sick to my stomach. It's disgusting.
Now, the Iranian currency has sunk to its lowest level in history.
Iran's currency slipped to its lowest level in history on Monday, nearing 1,250,000 reals, R-I-A-L, real, to the U.S. dollar on the open rate market. Various outlets, including the semi-official Tasnim news agency, reported the Iranian real stood around 55,000 to the U.S. dollar in 2018 when U.S. sanctions were reimposed by the first Trump administration.
So let those numbers sink in. In 2018, just 6-7 years ago, you could get 55,000 reals to get a U.S. dollar. Now it takes 1,250,000
Wow, that's 4 times. Am I right in my math?
I think it's I can't do the math right now.
That's 4 times. 55, I don't know, whatever.
No, it's more than that. It's like 40 or 400 times.
Yeah, right. That's where we're going with math.
Yeah. Well,
good thing we're talking politics.
Well, what's great here is that Iran. It's obvious that Iran is on its last legs. And Trump's policies about destroying the Iranian economic viability, and
which he did the first term,
and
he had them busted.
And their atomic capability, he's also destroying their economy.
Oh, what's the story with blowing up their atomic capabilities? Are they rebuilding, or we have to do a story on that next week?
Yeah, they're rebuilding, but it's slow and. In the meantime, they've switched from getting the atomic bomb to getting ballistic missiles. And Israel is adjusting
like
to dealing
intercontinental
with this.
Type of ballistic missiles?
And Israel is adopting its Iron Dome thing to protect against that.
We should do
But clearly Iran is on its last legs.
Good for them. Plus they're starving, right? Didn't we do a story? That was Iran, right?
What we got was that they don't have any water. Right. They're having to abandon Tehran. They're dried out.
Wet my beak.
Yep.
Oh my God, Leo. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to the vaccines used. Robert in North Carolina. Hey, Robert, how are you?
Hi, Robert.
Hi, guys.
This goes with the livestock.
Yes, Greg Kelly actually indirectly alerted me to this because one of ABC's advertisers is selling cows, cattle, beef that is not injected with mRNA vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
The vaccines, there's no reason to use them on livestock like cattle, hogs, even chickens. And the mRNA vaccines, whatever type they are, contain spike proteins, which are toxic and will have serious negative health effects on people.
So why are they using this? To fatten them up? Or why are they using this?
To fatten them up.
To fatten them up.
Right. And
their immune system?
They claim it's to bolster the immune system, but really it's because you don't have to pay food.
Right.
You don't have to pay for grain. You can just give them mRNA.
And you're saying, Robert, you're saying that there's a couple of slaughterhouses where they're not vaccinating these things?
No, they are vaccinating them with mRNA vaccines, which have spike proteins. And those spike proteins are toxic to humans.
Oh, got it.
They're poisoning our food supply.
Thanks for letting us in. That's very good.
We're on the hard break. Thank you, Robert.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hi, welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. One of the great ripoffs in the field of civil rights is the Justice Department going after private vendors for what's called disparate impact. What this means is that in the civil rights law, very often you can't prove that there was discrimination. You can't catch somebody red-handed in discrimination. So the Justice Department has issued regulations under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, creating a liability for disparate impact. And what that would mean is that for decades, the Justice Department has used disparate impact liability to undermine the constitutional principle that all Americans must be treated equally under the law, Pam Bondi said. No longer. This Justice Department is eliminating its regulations that for far too long required recipients of federal funding to make decisions based on race. What this relates to is that under the disparate impact thing, you can't prove that there was discrimination. You can't prove that somebody is consciously discriminating against blacks. But what you can do is you can sit back and say, well, look at the impact of this. Look at the number of blacks who are in this profession or who go to this college or who go to this university. And you can say we can infer that there was discrimination because there's a disparate impact.
Like in basketball, there's discrimination. There's no white people playing basketball.
Yeah, but
I'm kidding. I'm making a stupid.
Well, that's because they're not much good. But
exactly,
yeah.
Exactly.
And white men can't jump.
It's exactly.
What we're talking about here is the federal government saying, look at the outcome. Look at the fact that there are not that many black architects, that there are not that many black surgeons, that there are not that many black university professors. And you don't have to show that there was discrimination. You just have to show that there is an impact of that, and there are fewer in this category. And lots of people have been convicted of racism and fined for it not because of anything they did, but because the impact of their policies seems to be discriminatory.
Seems to be.
And this has been a white-collar crime that has so bedeviled universities and corporations, and it results in a sort of self-selection where they enforce civil rights laws that don't exist. And they talk about ending discrimination that hasn't happened. And they do that because they're scared that they're going to be brought up on charges by the Justice Department for disparate impact. They say, I don't discriminate. I don't even ask the race.
You're right.
But they're going to say, well, look at the impact. You must be. And that's a big field of civil rights law. And Trump is just announcing that the Justice Department is changing its standards so that we'll no longer prosecute disparate impact. To go after racism, you have to prove that there was discrimination against Joe and Harry and Bob when they applied for a job. Mm-hmm. Not just that there are fewer people working in this industry.
It's got to be merit-based. That's basically it.
Well,
if you're good at something, you get the job. If you're not, you do not. It's not about color or where you're from.
But to prove that you're not discriminating, you can't, to prove that they're discriminating, it isn't just enough to show the discrimination, to tell the story. The Justice Department was saying, hey, if there are not many minorities in this field, we're inferring that you're discriminating. The burden of proof shifts to you. You have to prove that they're not discriminating because there's been an impact that would suggest you are.
This is straight from Charlie Kirk, what he was talking about for the longest time.
And now this is changing completely. Mm-hmm. In the stroke of the pen, Trump has totally changed the civil rights law so that to discriminate, you have to discriminate.
Right.
Not just simply have a historic record of that.
Right.
Now, earlier in the show, we talked about Trump targeting the economy and his advisors like me saying that you need to focus on this issue more. And his approval rating edged up a little bit, not much, but a little, to 41% from 39% to 41% from 38%, which doesn't seem like much, but when you're a data wonk like me, it shows us a lot. The hardest thing to
How many people listening are like that?
The hardest thing to do in politics is to change direction. David Garth, the political consultant, 40 years ago, told me that line. The hardest thing to do in politics is to change direction. When you're dropping to move up, when you're moving up to be forced down. And Trump's approval rating has now edged up by 3 points.
So that's what you're getting at. He's moving
handling
up.
The cost of living.
He's going in the right direction.
A sign the administration's new focus on affordability may be supporting his popularity, according to a new Reuters poll. The 6-day poll, which closed on Monday, showed the approval of President's policies rising from 38% late last month, which was the lowest Trump has since he got back to the White House, to 41% from 38 to 41.
No, that says 47 in what I'm reading. Trump started his second term
with 47, but then it goes down when you're in office.
Got it.
The 10-point gain among Republicans boosted his number, and 69% of Republicans rated him favorably on the issue. 85% of Republicans approved of his overall performance as president, up from 82% last month.
Well, like I said, Dick, he's fighting against the message of the media and all the people. That's going to be a forever fight.
But it's amazing that after just one speech in Pennsylvania where he raised this issue and talked about it a lot, he's actually turning that around. He's aided by reality.
Yeah,
which
right.
is that prices are not going up. They are going down.
Right.
And then he does episodic things like the beef story we just talked about that lowers prices. And everybody goes to the gas pumps and they see that gas is now under $3,000. Under $3.
And giving the kids $1,000 in an account.
Right.
It's pretty serious too.
Now, Trump has pulled, that is revoked, 80,000 visas, including 8,000 students, for being leftist, for being anti-American,
Palestinian,
talking about Palestinian rights, and the fact that he's actually revoked the visas
of 80,000
people, and including 8,000 students. Have you noticed there have not been demonstrations on campuses lately?
Yes, I have.
About Palestinian rights and all of that. That's because they're all thrown out of the damn country.
And they're scared, too, that they're going to get thrown out if they raise their head.
That's right.
Right.
It's incredible success.
Raise your hand if you want to protest. Okay, bye-bye. Job openings rise. This is good. They rose in October to the highest level since May, a sign that the labor market is holding up despite some recent signs of slowing. Once again, the message from the media. The data was released Tuesday morning after being delayed by the government shutdown, the longest on record, which resulted in crucial inflation and job reports being postponed or canceled. So it's the media and their message. I said it 10 times already on the show. Enough of saying it, but it's so true.
Now, a big issue coming up over the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks will be that these subsidies that we now give Obamacare enrollees, which subsidizes their premiums and holds them down, expire at the end of the year. And the problem is that that's going to cause a lot of people to have their Obamacare premiums increase. What it really means is that the real impact of Obama's healthcare policies, which have been to stimulate inflation and drive up premiums, have been masked because Obama instituted subsidies. So you never felt it.
Right.
Your premium rose to $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 from $2,000 or $3,000, but you never knew it because there was a subsidy given to the
right.
And now the Republicans are debating whether to compromise with the Democrats on extending the subsidy via enhanced premium tax credits. And without the premium credits, the average out-of-pocket insurance costs for enrollees on Obamacare exchanges are going to double, with small business owners and early retirees too young for Medicare being the hardest hit. Senior Democrats are pushing for a show vote expected last week that happened for a clean 3-year extension of the subsidies, meaning the bill will not include structural changes in the programs to avoid the insurance affordability cliff for 24 million customers. But Republicans and right-leaning health economists have argued for months that the premium tax credits, which are paid to insurance companies to offset patient costs, are ripe for waste, fraud, and abuse.
Sure.
This month there was a new GAO audit of Obamacare programs and explained that 23 out of 24 fictitious applications submitted using fake Social Security numbers, amounting to a more than 90% failure rate, were processed and not caught in the fraud detection schemes. 4 of the fake accounts established for the plan were each paid $2,350 per month for fake subsidized Obamacare insurance. The GAO, so that the Democrats want to extend the subsidy on Obamacare premiums. And the Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to let you do that. We want reforms to stop fraud in Obamacare. And the Democrats said, oh, there's not much fraud.
Oh, not much.
And then the Government Accounting Office said that in 90% of the plans, they detected fraud.
90%.
90%. And they did it by submitting phony claims and seeing that they were then approved and paid. And out of the 24 phony claims they submitted, 23 were paid. 90+%.
When you say they submitted, who's they?
The Democrats. In this case, it was a study. They
no, but I'm saying is it
Government Accounting
the doctors
Office
are padding the numbers, or the patients are trying to get more care for less money?
The doctors and the patients are doing it, but they're being tracked by the GAO, the Government Accounting Office, which did a study of these rates. And to figure out whether they were being jacked up, they submitted phony applications to the system, and they found that in 23 out of 24 cases, those applications were approved. So hundreds of millions of dollars are being paid out based on phony applications. And the Republicans are saying, before we subsidize the premiums, we got to stop this stop the ship from shipping water.
Clean house. First clean house, then we'll figure it out. Fundamental and widening rift between
in the past,
US
the
and EU.
U.S. and Europe followed more or less the same economic models and more or less the same policies. Under Trump, that has ended. And under Trump, the U.S. is following very different policies than Europe is. The big example was the fining of Google, which was fined $2+ billion by the European Union for practices that they practice in the United States, which we don't find to be discriminatory. We find their search engines to be useful and often neutral. And, this policing of search engines plus open borders on immigration, where the Europeans leave their borders open and we're working to close them, are enormous differences between the European and the American approach to these issues. And those differences are becoming very apparent. The Trump administration is engaged in open hostilities with the EU, turning long-simmering feuds over free speech and mass migration into official U.S. policy. The EU's European Union's $140 million fine against Elon Musk's X platform lit a fuse on a conflict with the Trump administration was already primed for, and formalized a new national security strategy that cast Europe as a geopolitical villain. They're destroying our countries, Trump said, slamming the European nations as decaying and weak. The newest flashpoint comes as U.S. and European allies are sharply divided over Ukraine and the future of European security. The EU penalized X, Musk's company, on Friday after regulators found the platform misled users, obscured key advertising information, and blocked researchers from accessing public data. A furious Musk accused the EU of stifling free speech for bureaucratic tyranny, rallying the far-right leaders and millions of followers behind this hashtag number abolish the EU.
Right.
Senior U.S. officials piled on, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling the fine against Musk an attack on all American tech platforms and the American people. Vice President Vance said the administration's most outspoken Eurosceptic called the fine garbage and the product of X's refusal to accept European censorship. Senator Ted Cruz urged Trump to impose sanctions on the EU until this travesty is reversed, an extraordinary escalation typically reserved for U.S. adversaries. The fight over X stems from the worldview formalized in Trump's national security strategy, which accuses the Europeans of being monopolistic, anti-competitive, and basically sabotaging the closed borders, restrictions on immigration, and other measures of the Trump administration.
The White House argues that European elites have unleashed demographic change through open borders. They were saying that too.
Yep. Now, while this is happening, the U.S., at the heart of this is the allegations about mass immigration.
With UK and France?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when we get back, we'll talk about this. With UK and France going anti-immigration.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show.
Sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. Trump made a fundamental speech in Pennsylvania this week on the economy. And this was in response to the bugging of a lot of his advisors like me, saying that he needed to talk about that
and
more.
You do bug him.
Trump said in his speech, I have no higher priority than making America affordable again. And lower prices, bigger paychecks. And talked about how the Biden administration policies had caused high prices and we're bringing them down. They gave you high prices. They gave you the highest inflation in history, and we're bringing those prices down rapidly.
He said you're getting lower prices and bigger paychecks. We're getting inflation down. We're crushing it. I like that. We're crushing it. And you're getting much higher wages. I mean, the only thing that's really going up big is called the stock market. That's great. And your 401k. That's going up.
There's been a fundamental change in the economic statistics since Trump returned to office. Under Biden, the rate of inflation was higher than the rate of wage increases. So the boss said you're getting an increase, but you're not, because inflation was taking it all away.
Sure.
Since Trump got into office, for the first time, the interest rates and the changed, and people were making more money than they were losing from inflation, and real income was rising. Then under Biden, it dropped again, and now under Trump, it's risen again. Every one of the 10 months of the Trump presidency has shown an increase in real wages, which means the pay is going up faster than inflation.
Wow.
And this is so dramatic because
how come we don't hear this on the news?
You look at the charts, and in the first Trump term, every month the real incomes rose till they rose by a total of about 12% in his first term. Then under Biden, they dropped every single year, and he got the illusion of progress because it was basically just inflation. Then when Trump came back in, he's managed to reverse the trend, and now we've had 10 months of wages rising faster than prices do. And that's terribly important in what Trump has done.
The boss.
Oh,
Susie Wiles says Trump will campaign like he did in 2024. I love this. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, who's also a friend of ours, hasn't informed President.
Hasn't told him the truth yet.
This is great. I didn't realize.
She said, I haven't told him. Because he's not all that anxious to have to get out and go out all over the country.
But you know something?
Once he starts doing it, he loves it.
Let me tell you, Dick got Trump to start his rallies. I forget what year it was.
Yeah.
And he said, what, Dick? He goes, listen, I think, he goes, Oh, man, Dick, I do this. It's 24, and he just finished. I forget what year it was. He just finished a whole bunch. And you told him like a month later, I really think you should go. He was like, and then he did. Yeah. It was so great.
Right. Now, this was when he ran for election in 24. After he, quote, lost in 20.
Right.
I got on the phone with him and I said, you got to go back at it on stump.
I remember.
And do these rallies.
I remember. And he was like, what?
He said, I just finished doing 5 of them in a day.
Enough.
Yeah, enough.
And you said no.
I said, no, you need to go back out and do it. Because I said, the way people can tell you're not clinically dead is that you're doing rallies.
Right. I remember you saying that. I was on the call.
It's like blood pressure.
So anyway, Susie Wiles hasn't informed Trump yet, but she plans to push him aggressively onto the campaign trail ahead of the 26 midterms. So I haven't quite broken it to him. I love her. But he's going to campaign like it's 2024 again for all these people that he helped, for all that he helps. He doesn't help everyone, but for those he does, he's a difference maker, and he's certainly a turnout machine, Wiles said on the Mom View podcast. Wiles said on the podcast that presidents generally avoid deep midterm engagement, but argue Trump's campaigning could be vital to keeping a Republican Senate majority. He's going to have a fun next year. Sure, tell him that. He's going to have a fun next year, but we're going to put him on the campaign trail too. Typically in the midterms, it's not about who's sitting at the White House, Wiles said. You localize the elections and you keep the federal officials out of it. However, Republicans head into 26 facing tough Senate maps, aggressive Democrat fundraising, and they are aggressive at that, and shifting suburban battlegrounds. The party must guard against voter fatigue. That's key. The voter fatigue, Dick. The party must guard against voter fatigue, unify its base, and counter a well-organized left determined regain. That's it. Voter fatigue is it, because the midterms are going, oh, we got Trump, everything's going bull. Right. You got to get the Senate and
and if you listen to the show, you see that the major changes that are going on have just begun to kick in. In particular, what we said about disparate impact on racism and on the power to remove agency heads in the middle of the term.
Right.
And those policies are just starting. And I think that...
She got slaughtered?
Yeah, right. That's because Slaughter has been fired.
But like I said earlier, he appointed her. It's not like she was appointed by Biden and now he's letting her go and then people can say, oh, look what he's doing. He appointed her. She didn't do a job. Get out. You're fired, right?
Yep.
That was slaughter. He slaughtered her.
Let's do 30.
Let's do 30. All right. So Texas pushes plan for Turning Point organizations in all heights. This is a great story. Texas has launched a partnership with Turning Point USA to create chapters, the right-wing organization, on every high school campus in the state. I love this. Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Turning Point USA Senior Director Josh Thinfault, is that how you say it? Thifault, revealed the initiative during a news conference at the governor's mansion on Monday. They did not outline any plans that would require schools to initiate the clubs, but Abbott said that he expects meaningful disciplinary action to take place against any stoppage of the Turning Point USA in the great state of Texas. Let me be clear. Any school that stands in the way of Club America program in their school should be reported immediately to Texas Education Agency. The governor said this.
And he said it's a policy to have Turning Point organizations in every high school. Right. Every high school campus in the state.
I don't know what the number is. Roxana knows this number, by the way.
Yeah.
How many young people, I was going to say children, how many young adults have turned conservative just from Charlie Kirk and what he's done over the years at all of these places? He goes to the colleges. This announcement comes after Texas Education Commissioner Mike Morris, who stood behind Abbott at Monday's gathering, privately met with Default in early November to discuss suspending the organizations present in the state schools, which was first reported by the Texas Tribune. 4 days after that meeting, Patrick said he would commit $1 million in campaign funds to help bring the project to fruition. This is a beautiful thing.
It is.
Because young kids are starting to look at, first Charlie Kirk, but now at Republicans and Democrats and say, whoa, look at the picture here.
And talk about the Long March.
Well, that happened in the 60s?
Well, no, Long March is the Makuzi. Long March is how the Chinese communists described their strategy in taking over China. And they said we took a long march. We retreated to the north and we invaded the south, and it was a long battle, but we won. Then Herbert Marcuse, who was the leading theologian.
Was he a Marxist?
Marxist, and the leading philosopher. And he said that we have to do our own long march. We can't just sit back and wait for the proletariat to rise.
And he started with
never
schools.
Going to rise.
Schools.
We have to start schools, start kindergarten.
Right.
Move up, take the teachers' unions over, take the faculty over. Ultimately take over the faculty hiring.
Indoctrinate children and then young adults to believe what the professors are saying. Oh, this is good, this is bad.
And now we're saying, where did all this come from? Where did this leftism come from?
Bull.
And here's where it came from.
Know.
And now Texas is using the Charlie Kirk model to counter that trend.
To break that long march.
Absolutely wonderful.
And it's working. And I also said not long after Trump was elected this time, you felt people had a feeling of, they have backing, of conservative people.
Right.
You saw a Trump shirt, or you see people talking about it.
And what Susie Wiles said in the earlier story
so funny.
Is she's now going to rekindle that same spirit in the 24 campaign. And you saw that happen in Pennsylvania when Trump gave that speech. And his ratings went up a little bit. And you're going to see that continuously. And that's how we're going to win the midterm elections.
Remember when you marked up the tablecloth with the meeting with Susie?
Yeah, right.
I'll tell that story another time. All right, we're going to take a break.
The Dick Morris Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dick Morris Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Dick Morris and Doug DiPirro Show, sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. If you're driving on the highway now and you're worried about getting cut off by a truck and you're worried about a truck driving crazy, you have reason to worry because about 20% of truck drivers do not speak English.
Thousands of truckers lose licenses over lack of English. But before I get into the story, I was driving the other day with Ramon, our driver. I think we were going up the Sawmill, and we see a truck. You can't have a truck on the Sawmill Parkway, and they have those low bridges that are arches. Don't get into the real low bridges, right? And the truck was in front of us, and I said to Ramon, pass this guy, and boom, he went under the bridge, and he clipped his whole right side of his box, ripped the pipe. We were able to get away, go around him, after he hit, because he didn't make a big damage. But I go, look at this here. And then today on the way in, the snow was horrible. I told Ramon about that with this story. So let's talk about this. Almost 10,000 truck drivers have been pulled off the road for failing to meet English language proficiency requirements reinstated by the Trump administration. And, left's not going to care about the safety. They're going to call it racism or some crap like that. The big picture, immigrants account for the estimated 18% of all truck drivers, and some estimated show that the industry is already short tens of thousands of drivers. Trump signed an executive order in April requiring all commercial truck drivers to demonstrate proficiency in English, reversing an Obama-era policy that eased the requirements, which makes no sense. The policy took effect in June of 25.
And here in New York City, the New York routinely issues licenses to immigrants that may be valid long after they're legally authorized to be in the country.
Yeah, it's the motor voter thing right there also. But you know what the other thing is with this English speaking and all this other business? The same, I talked about this today. Also, one of the reasons these truckers end up on the Sawmill Parkway or the Merritt Parkway or some of these parkways to the low bridges, they got MapQuest. And they don't tell MapQuest, oh, I'm in a commercial vehicle that shouldn't be on the parkway. So MapQuest says, make a left turn, go on the Sawmill Parkway. And they do. So the less they understand, the worse it's going to be. So that's one of the things. Also, there's a lot of stupid people out there.
Well, it's a major step for transportation safety that these truckers are being forced off the road. And you can now count on the fact that they will speak English. They will obey signs. They will at least know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, right.
And without them, you're in real serious trouble. Now, New York is Duffy, the transportation secretary, is doing a great job. Found that more than half of the 200 licenses reviewed in New York were improperly issued, with many of them not being valid because they don't speak English. And it's becoming now a real issue, and Trump is acting on this. There was a seizure. We're accustomed to Trump bombing the boats of drug pushers.
Oh, what a shame.
Trying to bring stuff into the U.S. Mm-hmm. But Trump took this up another notch this week, and it's very important.
I laughed so hard I snorted. Let's get it. Cocaine.
He seized, ignore that. He seized a tanker loaded with 500 million barrels of oil. And that was bound actually for Cuba. And instead of just bombing a little ship, we seized the tanker and we seized its cargo. Now, what's going to happen is that this will increasingly ratchet up the pressure against Maduro, targeting his financial lifeline by seizing a massive tanker carrying crude oil off the coast of Venezuela and ramping up sanctions on the regime. The capture of a sanctioned ship has raised fears of a wider conflict, while also raising the prospect of a de facto American blockade seeking to choke off Maduro's crucial energy export revenue. And by the way, while doing that, going after Cuba, because the tanker they seized was taking Venezuelan oil to Cuba. And by cracking down on this trade, he's really stopping everything.
Secondary sanctions, sort of.
Well, that's kind even better than secondary sanctions, because we're not threatening cut off a trade. We're literally seizing their oil. Just like blowing up drug boats is inevitably going to make traffickers think twice before setting out, tanker seizure could make the new regime more cautious about sending oil shipments, at least using sanctioned vehicles. Oil makes up nearly 90% of Venezuela's export revenues, and if the Trump administration continues to seize oil tankers, it could sap the country's ability to import food, keep the lights on, and buy weapons. Now, another story that we should pay attention to is that Trump is now taking action to legalize marijuana.
I think we should go to Ilhan Omar for immigration fraud.
Okay.
I think we should do this. ICE may deport inbred Omar for immigration fraud. Border Czar Tom Homan confirmed the government is investigating Ilhan Omar. President Trump and other Republicans have alleged that Omar once legally married her brother to commit, that's where I get inbred Omar from, brother to commit immigration fraud. That deportable offense is now under investigation, Homan confirmed this week. We're pulling the records, we're pulling the files, we're looking at it, Homan said. I'm running that down this week. Homan explained that he discussed the issue with one of the best fraud investigators at the DHS. That investigator, Homan said, determined there is no doubt that was immigration fraud from the inbred.
Be interesting to see if they can throw her out of Congress.
Oh, that'd be so
because she's
cool.
not a U.S. citizen.
Oh, that's so unbelievable.
Now, Trump is expected to issue an executive order this week that would reclassify marijuana and would allow cannabis companies to fall under different tax and investment regulations. The Washington Post first reported Thursday that Trump was expected to use an executive order to instruct federal agencies to reclassify marijuana as a less regulated Schedule III drug from a Schedule I. The potential reclassification out of a group that includes heroin into a lower tier of dangerous drugs, which includes steroids and Tylenol with codeine, would take place this year. So basically he is legalizing marijuana, which is obviously a huge, gigantic issue with young people.
If we were doing music, we could do that song with the toke, take a toke or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's pretty good. So, Dick Morris, it's been an honor to be here with you
this
today.
was good. We covered a lot of ground.
We covered a lot of stuff.
Really nice.
We got it. And we're definitely going to find out about Dell and Trump. I want to know the conversation. And he'll be proud to talk about that. It won't be.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we got to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Dick Morris Show. You can hear The Dick Morris Show Sundays at noon. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to The Payne Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. Mm-hmm. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.